Where to point to me an LSD addict, like in the fucking planet? Where are they?
Well, we need to like take you off of it so that the doctor who says you need it can prove that you need it to us because, you know, we're medical experts at the insurance company.
Is that shit? What was I going to say?
I just imagine some bureaucrat being like, yeah, Diplodocus was a bad dinosaur because it was all about the marijuana. Hola! Welcome to another kitchen sink microscopy. I am Casey Rochford, and that is all the Spanish I know. And we would love it if you would like and share and subscribe in Spanish too.
Yeah, you could probably do subtitles. Change the subtitles, the algorithmically generated subtitles, which could be pretty amusing, especially if translated into Spanish.
Yeah, we need to branch out, go international, because we're going live. Well, by the time this airs, we've already gone live, but hopefully we'll be doing it again.
Yeah, hopefully. Well,
live on stage.
Exactly, live studio audience. So I'm Eric Rosenblatt, and well, Casey and I, we write our own music. There's going to be, if you stick around to the end, there's a timestamp down here if you want to skip to the end, just if you don't care about what we're talking about and just want to hear the song, you could do that. Our music's available out there on iTunes and Spotify and stuff. Or go to our website, ksmvidcast.com. Or get some merch, or perhaps if you really want to support us, go to patreon.com/ksmvidcast and throw $1 our way or something like that. I don't know. It'll help. So Casey, what do you want to talk about today?
Well, since we're not live and we don't have an actual audience, you know, we'll have to rely on things like the laugh track or whatever.
Oh, wait, I have that. Oh, wait, sorry, no. Oh, wait.
That's probably just going to get gated by Zoom.
Probably.
Yeah.
You can't hear that? Yeah. Well, that was crickets. That's what we're going to get.
Fucking Zoom. Well, anyway, I thought it would be interesting that, you know, we haven't really gone political in a little while, and it's probably been a couple seasons since we kind of talked about drugs.
Oh yeah.
And specifically, like, I know we've always wanted to kind of circle around to talk about the whole schedule classification, you know, like how people are parsing out what is addictive or dangerous or recreational or harmless or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even think it actually has anything to do with harm, as far as I know.
No, I think
people just construe it that way.
Pretty much. If I recall, one of the major conditions for like the top level schedule is that it doesn't have any medicinal use.
Right. Yeah, I think that's Schedule 1.
Schedule 1, yeah. Which we know is absolutely not the case.
Well, what's in Schedule 1, though?
Let me just pull that up real quick. And
because I know, like, cocaine is in Schedule 2 because it has been used as medicine and still is actually.
Yeah. So let's
It's
see.
a relative of lidocaine, which is a really dumbed down cocaine, but that's usually what people use to numb pain.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, here, Schedule 1, we got heroin,
Mm-hmm.
we got LSD, we got marijuana, mescaline, MDMA, GHB. I wasn't aware of that. That's interesting. Ecstasy, which is also MDMA. That's weird. I'm just looking at some random site that's listing it. Psilocybin, mushrooms.
It's funny because like half of these are being used medicinally now.
Mm-hmm. Apparently, synthetic marijuana and analogs are also part of that list. Quaaludes, cat. That's the KHAT, and bath salts. So, there's probably some other things in there too, but yeah, like a lot of that stuff. There's a few things where I could see that classification. I mean, I prefer it to be just simply a classification and not something that has any kind of enforcement behind it.
Yeah.
But like, okay, I can. So LSD, marijuana, mescaline, MDMA, GHB, psilocybin, all have like legit medicinal uses or therapeutic uses. Like they're
so they need to parse out marijuana into THC and CBD because THC doesn't have any medicinal value, like none. It's all psychoactive. It doesn't bind to pain receptors. All of that is CBD.
True. But then,
and they can be extracted separately from one another, like almost entirely pure.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah, exactly.
So it's not like you can't treat them as two separate drugs that just happen to come from the same plant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think we probably do that already with quite a few drugs.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends. Like medicinal use could mean a lot of things. Like therapy is part of that too. And I think to some extent, THC could be a part of that, depending.
I don't know how they consider therapy. Actually, maybe that's why those things are still Schedule 1, because I don't know that therapy necessarily falls under the category of medicine.
True.
I don't think it does at all, actually, especially because it's not something that you can like scientifically quantify or dose for in exact measurements or anything like that. It's all psychological.
Yeah.
So it's going to vary every time.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of a subjective thing.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's the government's place to tell people what to use to solve their problems.
No. No.
Especially because the well, as people who know me know, hypocrisy is the most loathful thing to me. And if you compare a lot of these Schedule 1 drugs that can basically land you in prison and ruin your life, take everything you have. If you compare those things to prescription drugs, well, prescription drugs don't have necessarily a squeaky clean track record for safety and efficacy and things like that. But
again, I think there isn't really like a classification of harm involved in this. I think basically they're looking at medicinal value and addiction potential, maybe.
Well, yeah. So here's the thing. this is what the DEA uses. The drug or substance has a high potential for abuse. Ooh, talk.
Yeah.
That's a huge problem with prescription drugs. The drug or other substance has no currently accepted medical treatment use in the U.S. And third, it has a lack of accepted safety for use under medical supervision. Which to me, it's like, well, okay, well, if you can't use it and can't gain access to it, how are you going to develop that?
I mean, people always like to squawk that there haven't been any studies on marijuana because it's illegal, but you've always been able to procure marijuana for research purposes. So, like, we have been doing tests and stuff, and like, I don't know if it's supposed to hit all those markers or not, but like, I mean, marijuana isn't like harmless, but it is not so harmful.
Sure.
You know,
sure.
like,
well, but the problem that I see is that it's an optics thing. The fact that people look at these Schedule 1 drugs, and probably due to all this propaganda from back in the day, like the DARE program. Oh, I should have my DARE cup with a beer in it or something. But there's this kind of false sense of safety that these things are bad because they're in this classification. But these things, if a doctor prescribes it or it's made by some company, it's totally okay. Well, no, actually, some of those things are way more dangerous, way more potential for abuse and addiction than things like marijuana. Especially talk about like LSD. Come on.
well,
Point to me an LSD addict, like in the fucking planet. Where are they?
well, the other wacky thing is like, there are plenty of prescription drugs that are considered controlled substances for like practically no reason. Like, I basically am rationing my testosterone now, just hoping I don't have a heart attack because I can't get it anymore because it's a controlled substance. And they sent me this like 64-page questionnaire that wants me to have like 2 blood tests in the last 6 months. I've never needed that many blood tests. And they have to show that I'm already in dangerously low levels. So it's like, I'm supposed to stay in, like a normal range. And that's what I've been doing. But now they're like, well, we need to like take you off of it so that the doctor who says you need it can prove that you need it to us because, we're medical experts at the insurance company. Yeah. I mean, the whole thing, I did a whole minute microscopy on prior authorizations, which is like, what's a prescription?
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's a prior authorization from an actual doctor. So,
and that's weird. Like, having all those tests, like, and you went through cancer twice and probably didn't have as many tests done. Testosterone. We have testosterone in our bodies. It's a naturally occurring substance. And to say that like you can't have access to it, what the fuck?
And this isn't even an anabolic steroid. Like, you can't just take it and get buff. Like, it like, if you take too much of this stuff, it'll just convert to estrogen, and then you'll have too much estrogen. So like, there's no potential for abuse. There's no high. You're not going to get buff from taking this particular form of testosterone. I can't get it though.
Bullshit.
I have a prescription. I have an actual like semi-life threatening need for it, and I can't get it.
Why don't you just mail order it?
I mean, I'm probably going to have to do like black market or something.
Well, I think it was at 93. I've used this particular bill to order nootropics, like smart drugs from overseas. I think it was 1993, there was a bill passed to allow people to import from other countries small quantities, like, 3 months worth of any substance, as long as the country of origin's version of the FDA approved it as, you know, safe, I guess. And yeah, you could just place an order and it's shipped in, even if it's not legit in the US. And the reason that was done was because the FDA, if I remember correctly, the FDA was dragging their feet on potential treatments for AIDS. And there were a whole lot of revolutionary things that were developed in other countries that were totally okay there, but we couldn't get them here because the FDA, well, they're a bunch of shitbags. So
And they were even fast tracking stuff here.
yeah. So it's like, but it was way behind, too little too late, essentially. So the idea was, well, if you have AIDS, you should be able to import these things from other countries that have done the tests and found it to be effective. That way, well, lives are saved, right? Like, that's kind of an important thing. So as I understand, all that legislation is still in place. So you can use that to import all kinds of stuff that would otherwise be like something you couldn't get here. And I'm fine with the black market. Like I doesn't really bother me as far as like it being a source to get things that you want and things, especially things you need to sustain your life. But the biggest problem is because they're kind of hiding in the shadows and they're not like a legit business. There's no controls, there's no standards. They don't necessarily have an interest in an inherent interest in producing a quality product. Because what are you going to do if they give you something crappy? You're gonna like call the cops or something? Like, oh, this.
I don't know that there's like an RV where people are like, formulating organic molecules on the black market. I think they're like stealing or paying off somebody to get actual tested product.
Oh,
that's just my guess, though.
I don't think they're stealing. It's probably illicitly imported from places where you can just buy that stuff over the counter. And yeah, and I guess that would be fine as long as it's like a product in a package and it was manufactured by a company who manufactures this stuff. Probably perfectly safe. Not going to make recommendations of where to buy illicit things. I mean, there's a lot of things you can use Tor if you want, or potentially places like Open Bazaar, a blockchain marketplace, kind of like eBay, but it's like absolutely outside the domain of control of the state.
Or darkweb.com.
Yeah, darkweb.com. I might have a little store on Open Bazaar, possibly.
Darkweb.gov.
.gov.
Yeah, let's go to that one.
yeah. Well, actually, what you're saying might be closer to the truth than you realize.
There's a few different angles to go with that one.
Yeah, I don't want to, name any names like the CIA or anything like that, but a lot of the child trafficking and drug trafficking kind of stuff might have their hands in that pie. But yeah, so like something you'd said earlier about studies being done, there have been studies done about a lot of things because this is the earth we're talking about and not just the US. So there are countries who are interested in studying things, and they're like, it's totally okay to procure marijuana and do studies, and there are studies. There's plenty of data out there for people who want to look that up, not just marijuana but all kinds of things. It's just it really it bugs me, because it's like the biggest issue I have. Well, the biggest issue I have, of course, is that this stuff is illegal to begin with. It shouldn't be. But beneath that, one issue I have is that shit. What was I gonna say?
Well, yeah, like the legality thing. Like if you're gonna slap a warning label on cigarettes and still have them legal, just do that with everything. Just put a warning label on it.
Oh, yep. No, now I remember. You see, you read my mind. I totally remember. Yeah, that's the whole thing. Like, cigarettes are legal, and they're clearly harmful. Alcohol is totally legal, and it's harmful as well. Like, it has harmful effects. It definitely can. Oh man. Okay, I'm trying to formulate my thoughts, so give me a second here.
So if you think drugs shouldn't be illegal, what about the activities that you do under the influence of them?
Yeah. What? Elaborate a little bit on that, so I know what angle you're going with here.
Well, like the issue of alcohol, while it's illegal, while it's legal, it's illegal to drive under the influence, or be in public under the influence even is illegal.
Yeah, or
to imbibe it after a certain hour in certain places. There's all kinds of laws about the use of it. So it's like, how legal is it really?
Well, it's probably like more not like it's legal, but it's just allowed under conditionally allowed, which is definitely
concept.
Yeah. Man, I'm now I have like a bunch of divergent ideas in my head that I can't reconcile. Shit. I have a really good point about the illegality aspect, but it's going to take me a second to figure that one out.
Well, it's funny that things like cocaine used to be pretty like normal, something you would be prescribed. Sure. And now it's seen as like, one of the, I don't know, like the top 3 or 4 like bad drugs or whatever.
Oh yeah. It was over the counter. You used to be able to buy that stuff, at a pharmacy or whatever. They would mix up. In fact, that's how Coca-Cola got started.
Yeah. Sherlock Holmes did coke.
Yeah.
I mean, he was fictional, but like it just kind of shows how normalized it was in the 19th century.
Yeah, it was, and a lot of things were normalized in that sense of opiates and stuff. There was laudanum was a common drug that people took, and it could be argued that it was harmful. Some of those things could have been harmful, but it wasn't. They weren't harmful because they were legal. They were harmful because people didn't fully understand them. Like the people that drank radium water. Like that's kind of what I always come back to. Or my dad used to tell me about when he was a kid, and he'd go into a shoe store and they had an X-ray machine you put your feet on, and you could see through your feet to determine if the shoes fit correctly. Like, yeah, that sounds good on paper, right? That like you see the shoe, you could see through the shoe, you see your bones and your skin kind of inside there. Kind of a perfect tool for determining if it fits. However, it's shooting X-rays into your balls, like a lot of X-rays.
And then they figured out the shoe salesman could just put their finger on your toe and have you wiggle your toe and be like, oh yeah, that fits.
Yeah, and they had the little like sizing things and stuff. And yeah, like it was just something of the times. People just didn't know. They didn't understand what was going on. And that's the issue that I have with these things, is it's not an informational sort of thing. It's heavy-handed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're caught, well, in most places in the US, if somebody some kind of governmental person figures out that you have this particular substance on your person, you can go to prison for potentially indefinitely. They'll take all that you have. If you have enough of something, let's say you're a hoarder and you've collected enough heroin to last for a year. Oh, well, now you're a dealer and everything you have is ours now. Reasons? We don't need them. We've got guns and you don't, basically.
Well, and ironically, or perhaps unironically, depending on how much you're able to apply logic, abuse of said drugs was pretty much non-existent when it was just normalized legal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
And then you go and pull all this prohibition stuff. I mean, it's that childhood, like, one of those like immaturity things that a lot of us hang on to, is like, if you tell me not to do it, that just makes me want to do it.
You know? Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's totally true. And that's why if you look at like countries and places where there is no age limit for certain things, like a drinking age or a smoking age, you don't have the same problems you have in places where there are such restrictions.
Right.
So it's like, it does sound counterintuitive, but it kind of makes sense.
Well, yeah, like if you think about it, if you're 13 and you get drunk, you're still learning about the world around you and how you fit in it. And if you are able to recognize how that affects you and how that really fucks with your ability to interact with the world around you, you're probably learning a valuable lesson that when you wait until you're 21 and your brain is almost entirely developed and it's pretty much downhill from there, you're probably not going to get that lesson quite so easily.
No, and I guess it could be argued that it's kind of like opening the floodgates, essentially, that you're waiting for that moment, all
that buildup.
Yeah, how many people turn 21 and it's like the first thing they do is go to a party or a bar and they get drunk.
Yep.
Right. Well, you might already be able to handle alcohol, no problem. Maybe you just don't even care by the time you're 21 if you live in some country where there's no age limit, like France.
Or if you grow a beard and you can buy beer at 17.
You don't know.
Yeah. I don't even remember what I did on my 21st birthday. I was just like, well, whatever.
Yeah, same here. Somebody gave me a little shot of some kind of schnapps or something like that like they were like, oh, it's your 21st birthday, you got to drink. And I'm like, why? Like, why do I gotta drink? Whatever. But then, I might have already had a little bit of a firm grasp of it might have already been a psychonaut by that point. So but it's like I think restricting things, you're right, that putting those restrictions causes people to look at things a different way. Like, breaking taboos is something people enjoy doing. Like, if you're told not to do something, then people are naturally going to be inclined to want to do it because it's like sneaky, or I'm not supposed to do this.
Yeah.
And so I think some of that does apply to drug scheduling and all these laws and rules and stuff like that. Obviously, some things do have the potential for addiction or abuse, especially opiates. that's the one where it's like, well, there's the kind of a, like when you look into how their method of operation within our brains and bodies and stuff, like, yeah, that does happen. But here's the thing. People have been using this stuff for millennia. Like, it's not like opiates are a 21st century invention. Even cocaine, people used to chew coca leaves all the time while they're climbing mountains and stuff. Like peyote, psilocybin,
Well, the thing with opiates is like they do have an excellent, pain reduction use, and this prohibition of it, like I mentioned earlier, is ramping up the enticing value for those people that are kind of prone to addiction, and there's plenty of data from various places around the world to show that, like, when you kind of decriminalize it and provide methadone clinics and treatment options and clean and safe needle procurement and disposal, problems start going away on their own. Like,
you're absolutely right. If anybody wants like a really good case study, something demonstrative of how effective legalization of everything can be, Portugal. Mm-hmm. All you have to do is look to Portugal, look at the data before they legalize. Like, they didn't just decriminalize. It's like all open right there. Mm-hmm. I don't know that you can necessarily open a shop selling certain things, but there are no consequences. It removes the stigma, for one. That's an important factor. But like, all you have to do is look at the data before and the data after for like the number of deaths and overdoses and all kinds of things, and it's shocking. Like, how can anybody claim to care about people's lives with this data in their face and still continue to say we should keep these things illegal and put people in jail because they're using these things? Mm-hmm. Like, Portugal is a very good example. There's others, but that one is really big because it's a whole country.
So now I want to move to Portugal and start a business. I'm going to open like a sandwich / like opiate shop called Euros and Heroines. Get your Mediterranean food and your bag of well, I'm not going to go any further.
Probably,
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, yeah, it
bag of chips, clearly.
Yeah, chips. Yeah, sure, right. What blows my mind are some of the things on this particular list in the U.S. Mm-hmm. LSD, psilocybin, peyote, like things in that category. MDMA, even MDMA was being studied, I think, in the 60s by psychologists for therapeutic reasons, for people overcoming like PTSD. They were using it in like couples therapy and stuff. And
I think there is some neurotransmitter production decreases that come from heavy use of it. So, well, I mean,
heavy use, yeah, but as a therapeutic tool.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know that you always have to necessarily employ a professional for therapy.
No.
And whatever. Here's the thing. There's a downside to everything. Anything you look at, be it legal or illegal, you could probably find some kind of negative effect to point to and be like, well, that's exactly why that should be banned. But then what about cigarettes? What about alcohol? Oh, hang on a second. Like those have negative effects. Everything has a negative effect. Even water. You drink enough water, like that could be a problem. So that in itself isn't a reason to blockade people from being able to experiment with it and use it, even recreationally. Like, I think laissez-faire, right? Like, you only live once. If you want to have fun in life, go ahead and have fun. Who cares if there's some kind of harm? I mean, shit, people die when they're 20, they die when they're 6. Like, you don't know when you're going to die. Why not enjoy your life? Like, what's the point? Like, why do we want to preserve people till their like skin is wrinkling and falling off and they're hooked up to a bunch of machines and stuff? Like, I mean, I just live it up.
I think this is a whole other tangent, but we probably wouldn't worry so much about living super long if we didn't have to work so much of our lives.
Yeah.
If we had more time to relax and chill, we wouldn't be looking forward to the golden years so much, where you're already too old to do most of the shit you want to do anyway.
Well, that's true. And I mean, we're fortunate in this time that we live now, that we don't have to work nearly as brutally as we used to. But yeah, like a Star Trekian universe where we have replicators and robots and we really don't need to do much, like that would give us a lot more time to do meaningful things, stuff that we really care about. Like, do you really want to be scooping sewage every day, or would you rather be writing music or painting or something like that? I'd like to see a world where humans could do that, because humans can do some amazing things, especially when they're on drugs.
So when it comes to like legislating for people's safety, I don't know, I go back and forth on, because I mean, I see like the good intentions and the benefit that can and does to some degree come from doing that sort of thing. But there's also a whole lot of negative that comes along with it. And the byproducts of that being like my situation with testosterone. It's like, in order to prevent abuse of, people who are too dumb to know that it's not the right testosterone, not the right steroid they want, we're just going to make it impossible to get for people who actually need it. Well, now you're doing more harm than good.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Like, you're just trading one thing for another.
Yeah.
Like, the harm that you've claimed to have prevented, well, now your actions cause harm in another place equivalently. Yeah.
So it's like, if you really want to prevent abuse or accidental misuse or whatever, have a goddamn class in elementary school that's not DARE, but it talks about drugs and explains how they work and explains what they do and the dangers of overdoing it.
Well, and both the good and the bad.
Yeah.
I have enough friends who are ex-heroin addicts to know that I am never going to touch that shit.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's so honesty. Like, one time is enough to like make you want more.
It can be. And honesty is important, like being honest. But the biggest problem I have is this whole like lock 'em up philosophy, which is really kind of useless, like really doesn't serve a purpose.
Huge waste of resources.
Well, yeah. And doesn't fix the problem. It just makes us forget about it.
And pisses off the inmates.
Well, you put a bunch of people together who have gone through the same thing, and now they become teammates for the future.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I would feel a lot more okay with this kind of system if they were not punitive but more informative. If the point of all of this was simply to say, hey, we're a central system to provide safety information, right? Like, we're collecting all this data. This is the right way to do it. This is same thing with building codes. I feel the exact same way about this. There should just be a public access book that's like, here's what you do, here's what you don't do. And somebody building something can refer to that so that they don't hurt themselves or somebody else. The same thing with drugs. Provide the information we have, provide it honestly, in an unbiased way. Don't judge people. Don't fucking incarcerate people. Just give them the information so they can have those tools in their toolbox.
Okay, but I can see a slippery slope where I think you even did a microscopy about this, or some kind of rant. Ignorance of the law is no excuse, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you simply provide information for people to peruse at their leisure, there's no guarantee that they will do that, and they might go and do something that hurts someone. And then, then the argument is, well, you had the access and the opportunity to learn the proper way to do it and how not to do it, but you chose not to. So now we have to hold you responsible for that.
Well, no, you're kind of right there. Now, of course, such things do happen despite the fact that there is legislation, like punitive legislation out there.
Yeah.
A lot of people are harmed, they're killed by bad mistakes, even though this information is out there and you get punished. Like, you get the switch, as my grandpa would say, if you don't behave. So, like, it's going to happen no matter what. I think your idea of providing that information in school is the right way to go. That there should be open dialogue, open discussion about the things that, like, we're just trying to prepare people for life, right? The world out there as we know it. Of course, we don't know everything. There was probably a time when you go to school and your teacher would recommend radium water or using that like shoe sizing device that ionizes your ball sack. But we've learned more since, like, things change.
Like, do you remember any of your fourth grade history?
A little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if elementary school was just about learning how to live? Like things that you actually can practically apply or conceive of using analogical thinking from what you've already experienced. Those are the things that really stick in your memory. So if we're teaching kids how to like cook food, how to build things that won't fall down, like how to survive if they're stuck somewhere inhospitable, just basic raw stuff. And then, like logic and physics, like start with physics, because honestly, as far as math goes, I've never understood math better than when I took physics, non-calculus based physics. So it's dumbed down a little bit, but then you actually have like a way of seeing the principle of it, at least. And it clicks and it starts to make sense. And that would probably really boost just like the baseline intelligence of everybody.
Oh yeah. Like what you'd said, survival, like, how to live, how to survive, how to not die.
What's more important than surviving? Right?
That's pretty important. Well, and I think including a lot of science, the STEAM principles and things into those classes, so people can kind of, even if it's something you're unfamiliar with, you can kind of figure it out, is really important.
What's the A in that? Is arts?
Art, yeah.
Yeah. because that is really
they've
important.
revised that recently.
Yeah, that really is important because there is art to science. Like
yeah, absolutely.
Creativity is exactly how you come up with new ideas.
Oh, especially when you're getting into engineering, the E in STEAM. You need to be very creative, and art does play a part in that. It's very important for expression as well, too, for your own mental health.
I hate how like the first things to get cut are arts and music. And really. I guess music is art, but like programs like that get cut, and it's like music teaches you math.
Yeah,
like that's real-time math, like real life math, and beyond that, it's like also art. It's math and art. So you're getting creativity, you're getting emotional outlet, you're getting math.
Well, and if you look at like the T in STEAM, the technology side, I guess it kind of goes into the engineering side, like programming, robot building and stuff like that.
I think it's more the application of the things that the E people built,
Yeah, but like if you're doing programming, like we had a little stint with programming when we were running the business, making video games and stuff. That's the way, like all that stuff comes together in one place. Like
that's logic.
All of it. Yeah. You learn logic, you learn machines, you learn computers, you learn so many things. Like
programming, albeit I don't know much about it. Programming is all about logic and how to communicate with people. There's no delicate way to say this. How to talk to dumb people, because the computer is dumb. If you don't tell it exactly what you want it to do and what you don't want it to do, it's going to be all haywire. Like,
oh yeah, and it can be really frustrating when you're like, what? Why isn't it doing this thing? I told it to do this. Like, no, you have to understand its own language, like how it's thinking,
and troubleshoot.
Troubleshoot, exactly. And that actually is very valuable in interpersonal relationships. Like how, when there's a conflict, like how do you resolve it? Do you get angry, or do you sit and ponder it? Do you ask questions? Like programming teaches so many things, especially game design. Like, whoa, that is what they should be teaching. But my thought about school, although this is a bit of a divergent topic, but I think it's related. My thought about school is the fact that, like you're saying, they cut art, they cut like science and stuff like that, music. The fact that all that happens, that it's so watered down, kind of illustrates, to me at least, that as far as the state is concerned, there's no interest in people, in bettering people, in protecting people, in educating people. It's just a methodical algorithm that they're just pumping people into and popping them out just so they can like check a check mark off of the list. Like, oh yeah, we've educated another person. Like,
yeah, I think it's the deeply ingrained corporatism that they're just trying to build all these like core skills for what you need to get like a career, and making your life all about producing.
You're right in that like why do you think there are bells? It goes back to the industrial,
like the bell curve, or
no bells ringing for the end and beginning of class.
Oh,
it goes back to like the Industrial Revolution and people working in factories, and bells telling you when you can like go to break and come back, when you have to be back, punching the clock, watching your watch, like time is of the essence. And that's why if you're like late by 1 minute, they freak out. Like there's more to it than that, but certainly that's a huge component that essentially they were trying to churn out worker bees.
Yeah.
And nothing's
time is made up. So
It totally is. I did a Minute My Cross could be about that. You could watch it. It's well, within a week or two of this video.
Yeah, up there.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, you know, it's no wonder that everybody that comes out of school is an idiot, essentially. Like, not well-rounded. I mean, there's so many things people don't know, and that's a huge problem. Well, and this does kind of come back to the whole drug thing, because I remember, I don't know if you had all of the DARE stuff when you were a kid.
Oh yeah,
but I remember that, like, it was all fear mongering. It was all talking about
talking police car and everything.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, some of that stuff was cool, but it was all stupid. It doesn't give you the tools necessary to handle the things you're going to deal with. Like, what they need, I guess, honesty is really important. Being honest about things, telling people how the mechanisms of operation of these substances, the good and the bad. You know, if there's something, heroin would be a good one to bring in, like, somebody to, like, an actual person who's gone through that to talk about it. But banning stuff and putting people in prison is the worst possible thing you could do. Like, because here's the thing, what are you fixing? Like, okay, you're doing that. Does that solve the problem? Like, the state is recognizing a problem, right? Oh, so-and-so is addicted to heroin and they have a bunch of heroin in their pocket. So, okay, we found it. Let's take everything they have, shoot their dog, because that's what they do. And, you know, they're maybe their only companion, and then throw them in the clink for, like, years on end. Oh, yep. Yeah, we fixed it. Life is good.
Yeah.
That's not the way you solve those kinds of problems. And that's where I think Portugal did it right. And unfortunately, they are a very, very rare outlier.
Yeah.
In governments that actually get it.
When it comes to crime, if you're reactive instead of proactive, you're losing the battle.
Yeah.
You're just pushing the problem somewhere else, pushing it under the rug for a while or whatever, you know, like, you're not fixing anything.
Well, it's kind of like homelessness too.
Yeah.
Like and there are interconnections there. There's parallels with that.
Yeah.
And
well, yeah, there's
many
like a
levels.
Stigma that, like, homelessness is always linked to crime, always linked to drug use. And as we found in our interview with a former homeless man, most homeless people aren't drug addicts.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, and there could be some mental health stuff there.
Yeah, even that's kind of rare. You know,
the problem I have with this is the stigma that or the criminal aspect, that, like, living on the street is a crime, or, you know, ingesting a substance into your body is a crime. Why? How?
Yeah.
Whose body is it? Like, you're the one that's out there in the cold building a tent out of fucking tarps and cardboard boxes. You're the one who has decided, or maybe fate has decided that to ingest substances, and having to deal with the repercussions of that, whatever substances they might be. I mean, they could be alcohol too, but well, that's no big deal. Hey, drink up, bottoms up, buddies. Like, that's okay. But oh no, if it's an opiate, you're going to fucking prison. Like, I don't get that. It doesn't matter what the substance is. If somebody has a problem, like, if somebody is dealing with struggling, trying to overcome something, we should look at it from a humanitarian standpoint, like, peaceful, like, hey, there's somebody going through this. It's a friend, a fellow human being. We should help them. Find a way to help them, and not punish them. especially not taking everything they have.
Yeah.
It doesn't
I
make
mean,
any sense.
it's one thing if their behavior under the influence of these drugs is causing them to bring harm to others. Like that's probably the only case where I would consider like um, punitive action, but that
Yeah, I
should be
agree. Yeah.
solely focused on their actions and not the substance that they used to put
Yes.
them in that under that influence. And
Exactly. Yeah.
and it's like yeah, like anything that you are that involves your body should not be legislated towards like and the whole abortion argument. It's like I see that as self-defense.
Yeah.
Like there's a foreign body that may be um, threatening your life, and if your life is threatened under any other circumstances, it's totally justifiable to preserve your life by ending the life of the other.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And I mean,
With
honestly,
caveats or whatever, but
well, sure. Yeah. And the I guess the important distinction too is people who want to tell people what to do, like you're saying about abortion and stuff. However you feel about it, it's fine to disagree with things and say, well, I would never do that. Yeah, then don't do it.
Yeah,
don't judge somebody else.
Great to have an opinion. That's fine.
Yeah. Don't judge somebody else who wants to undergo that. And because it's such a gray area, like I could never pass judgment on anybody in that regard. Like it is another person's body, it's their life, their entire experience. That like a child inside somebody, you did not inseminate that person, so you have no say in what decisions they make. Okay, maybe if the baby's born or capable of being born, it does get a little bit more treacherous there. Mm-hmm. But even then, it's not your place. It's not our place to make that decision, and it definitely is not the state's place to make that decision. It never should be.
No. And I got to crowbar religion into this a little bit too, because I think that's where a lot of this comes from. I had a very religious, like hyper religious aunt that when my cousin about 20 years ago became pregnant, I ran into my aunt at a Walgreens and I was like, oh, it's so great that, she's pregnant. She's going to have a kid. And, my cousin was fairly young. She was married, but because she was kind of young, my aunt was like, oh, it's not a good thing. Like you're going to be a grandma and you're like poo-pooing this because like under your criteria, your daughter's not old enough. And you know what? Like her kid has cystic fibrosis and is like 19 now, which is like kind of making it a long way for cystic fibrosis.
Mm-hmm.
And she's kicking ass and she's really happy and she's got a good life and a boyfriend and stuff. And it's like, you know what? Like, great. Like,
well, yeah, if your aunt had her way, that would never have happened.
Yeah. So it's like, maybe shut the fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yeah, that's the whole thing. It's like,
mind your business.
Mind your own business. Like, if somebody actually asks for help, that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But to be like a nanny or a mommy, like always looking at other people and judging them and trying to force people to conform to your ways is disgusting.
Oh, it's because she wasn't married. That's right. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was.
Oh, yeah. No, okay. So the religious aspect.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny. I mean, I'm going to guess there's some kind of Christian angle there.
Yep.
In the religious thing.
Mm-hmm.
I actually got into an argument with my mom one time about that. And I sent her like all kinds of articles and papers about why marriage is not in the Bible. And drove her nuts. Okay, I swear that didn't cause her cancer. But like yeah, oh man.
I kind of can't wait to do another episode about marriage and kind of like in the light of like grooming behavior. It's gonna have to wait a little while, but
I think we're gonna have some really interesting episodes coming up.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh boy.
Well, then it seems that there's kind of a religious aspect to drugs too, which
yeah,
is kind of weird.
It is weird. Yeah, like where's that come from?
Especially if you're a Christian, because dude, come on, Jesus was a fucking hippie.
He had long hair and he didn't have a job. What more do you want?
Exactly. Well, no, he was totally a hippie, like pot smoking hippie all the way. And I venture to guess there's a lot of Christians who are secretly pot smokers. But
there's a lot of secrets that Christians have, period. Just, which is dumb and tragic, really. Like, you shouldn't have to hide who you are. If you're gay, that's fine.
Yeah.
God doesn't care because God doesn't exist, but whatever.
Well, let's assume
assuming God does exist, though. Yeah. Why would God care?
Well, because God made people in his own image and God made people perfect, right?
What if God's bi?
Well, yeah, but if God made people, then the gay people were made by God.
Why would God have a gender at all?
Well,
God's probably androgynous, and in that aspect, by definition, bisexual, I guess.
God would definitely not have a gender. Being an ethereal being. But Jesus.
We're pissing off so many people right now.
Oh yeah, probably. but Jesus would hang out with gay people, like, or whoever. I mean, what Mary Magdalene, the prostitute, I think.
It's funny that Jesus preached all this: don't hate anybody, love your neighbor, love your enemy, and yet people still try to twist it all to, all the Bible is a way of focusing your hate and using the 2,000 pages or whatever it is to justify that hate and aim it at whoever you hate.
And why even hate to begin with?
Right.
Where does that even?
Doesn't the Bible even talk about that? Like,
no, yeah, and that's the most infuriating thing too.
Cherry picking.
Well,
Ashcroft.
Yes, Ashcroft. Yeah, it's not the religion per se, and not the doctrine, not the Bible. It is the church. I draw no distinctions between the church and the state. To me, they're one and the same. Being an anarchist and an atheist at the same time, I think they're kind of the same, very similar. The problem is the church, where you have a bunch of people who get up on their high horse, they stand up at the podium, and they get everybody whipped up about something. And they use this doctrine, they use people's emotions, the things they believe in, against them. They use those things to control them, to get them to feel the way they feel. That's the problem. That's how you get the Westboro Baptist Church.
Yeah. Maybe I got rid of this book. There was, I want to say it was by Sean Faircloth. It was all about how America is a theocracy.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could remember.
Loosely, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, maybe not officially, but like in practice. We absolutely do kind of have Sharia law.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, It wasn't intended to be that way.
No. In fact, people talk about the founding fathers all the time. It's like, I don't think you realize how many agnostics or atheists were amongst their numbers, but it was like basically all of them.
If it had to be one or the other, I think they would. If the founding fathers were here right now and you told them, okay, you got to choose, which did you mean? Freedom of religion or freedom from religion?
Mm-hmm.
I think they would go for freedom from religion, because that doesn't preclude you from believing what you want to believe or having your own spiritual values or dogmas or whatever, but nobody else is telling you what to think. And that was the point of this whole country.
Yes. More people. Okay, the Federalist Papers should be like required reading in school, but that is the whole point of the First Amendment. There were some flaws in the design, but it's an engineering thing.
We're humans.
We learn and we improve. Yeah. Like nobody's gonna. Well, you think about the context of 1700s when this country was founded. How was the rest of the world? It is actually kind of remarkable that design came into being and actually happened. And here we are sitting today debating about it.
Right.
It is kind of amazing.
I mean, I will say the principles upon which this country were founded are amazing, excellent, like great ideas.
Yeah,
they've been bastardized, yes. But if you took that kind of principle and that freedom and that individuality aspect of everything and coupled it with the humanitarian philosophies that a lot of the rest of the developed world has mastered, I
wouldn't say mastered, but are attempting to master.
Compared to how we do things here, they're way beyond us, I think.
And this country is very set in its ways. Mm-hmm. There's a reason for that, and maybe good, maybe bad. But yeah, maybe. Well, you want to talk about the founding fathers? The whole concept was we would burn it down and start over from time to time. Yeah. Take everything we've learned, deconstruct it all, and start again with new plans, new ideas. And that is honestly remarkable for the time that it emerged. That is a scientific process.
That's the only way to do it. How many, don't even lie, how many times have you thought, gee, I wish I could just go back and be born again, but with all the knowledge I have now?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah. How cool would that be?
Yeah.
If you had the cheat codes or, or
the Let's Play videos that you could watch beforehand.
Yeah.
Showing all the secrets. Well, yeah. And that is the right way to do it. That's the
principle. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, this is, how do we get here?
And we're not even on drugs. Well, I'm always speaking for myself, except for the alcohol.
Alcohol, yeah. We've got a little bit of ethanol in our bloodstream.
A little social lubricant.
Yeah, exactly. There could be some giggity. There could be some other stuff later tonight, but yeah. Man, that.
Well, I get drug tested at my job. So.
Oh shit. That's another thing I'd like.
Drugs and drug testing. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that really bugs me, speaking of that, just really quick, is how here in Washington State, I feel stupid that I have to qualify it as state instead of just saying Washington.
Right.
I did a minute microscopy about that one.
Yeah.
But So marijuana is legal. Like there are shops selling it.
Ish.
Well, there okay, there are shops selling it. You can buy it online. I'm not going to say anything, but it's possible I've like placed orders online and bought things and picked it up in the store. Like you can do that. Totally okay. But the official drug tests that exist out there are aimed at finding out if you have in the past used such a substance, not if you're under the influence. Like we have tests to find out that same thing with alcohol, but we don't have that for marijuana. So as far as these drug tests are concerned, there's no distinction between whether you've smoked pot like 10 days ago or if you're high on marijuana right now.
I mean, like,
there are tests, but not everybody uses them.
Yeah, and concentrations can kind of give you like an idea, but it's not an exact science by any means. No. And, there's a complication that it's federally illegal, but legal in the state, which is weird because it's like, that's kind of the only thing we treat that way if you think about it. So that's
there's a few other things, but yeah, you're kind of right. Like, how is it? The original design of things was that the states were petri dishes, essentially, like experimental platforms to try out different things. So they were autonomous in their own right. The federal government was originally designed to ensure that these core concepts, the like things in the Bill of Rights and the Constitution were upheld regardless, because the like honestly, if you look at it, it's pretty much legit stuff. Like there's nothing in there other than a couple of like outliers like prohibition that don't make sense. Most of it does make sense. That was the federal government was supposed to ensure that we were all playing fair and that there was a common defense for this little pile of petri dishes where we were experimenting. Well, it's not the same now. It's definitely different. The federal government trumps the states in a lot of ways. Like now states are, especially when it comes to drug legalization, and I'm totally in favor with this, states are kind of pushing back against this, which is a good thing. We should do it with more things. I
mean, if enough states get on board with it, I think the pressure is just going to be too much.
Oh, I would venture to guess that within maybe 3 years, we're going to at least see marijuana legalized nationally.
I already think it's weird that like just the act of like a crime crossing state lines automatically bumps it up to federal. Like
that is a little weird.
Why does federal have any kind of police? Like
they're not supposed to. Posse comitatus. You're not supposed to have federal police. But every single fucking day that I drive around, I see federal police. What are they? Not TSA.
Homeland
Security trucks like driving around, and it says police. It's like, man, who? I worry.
There's certainly a lot of things that I think people on either side of the political spectrum in this country, which is, for the podcast listeners, I was using air quotes there because it's never binary. But
no, it's not.
I think there's a lot of things that everyone would agree on that we're made to feel like we wouldn't agree on because we're conditioned to think that we are binary.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, and that's by design. That
yeah,
it helps to
much like
control
religion.
people. Oh yeah, yeah, and it helps to control people. If people are less inclined to have a conversation,
Yeah,
over a beer or something, look up that really good Heineken ad for reference. Um, then they're not really likely to get along. It's very easy to manipulate people to kind of change the apparent picture so that you can pit people against each other, so that they're fighting all the time.
yeah.
And then the powers that be can just swoop in and say a few sweet words and do what they want to do, and rake in all the money.
So when I say America is a theocracy, I'm not really just pointing to religion per se. It's more about treating the government and the country itself as a religious entity. And by that I mean, like, the Constitution is our Bible, and we treat it like we can't really change it much or interpret it very differently. Like, it's just the way it is, and we can't learn from our mistakes. We have to stick to that thing.
Yeah, because
almost 300 years old,
Yeah, 300 years ago ish, a bunch of people, learned people, wrote this document, and now we have to abide by it because reasons,
right.
And the president is the Pope, and the politicians, people in Congress and the Senate, they're all the
bishops and cardinals.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not to make it all Catholic, but like,
I mean, it is.
There's parallels.
No, there definitely are.
Yeah.
And people feel like their identity, just like they do with religion, they feel their identity is their political persuasion.
Mm-hmm.
That, well, I'm this, so wave the flag, and fuck that. You're a human being.
Mm-hmm.
Step up, man up, or whatever you got to do, woman up or something. And, like, we need to get along. Like, stop being controlled. Stop being a pawn in somebody's sick ass game.
I'm going to say something really poignant right now.
Okay.
Probably will go in the front of the episode. Our natural state is completely nude. There is no room to be draping a flag over yourself.
Ooh. Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Like, your country means jack shit. Where you were born, there's no point in being proud of that. Like, you were born there. Like, you have no control. You can only be proud of things that you did.
Yes. I totally agree.
Things that you put a preconceived notion into action and actually committed with, like, a purpose, like,
and it's very similar to your skin color or your biology, like
sexual orientation,
sexual orientation. You didn't choose to be born that way. That's how the dice were rolled for you.
Yeah.
Like, we should never judge anybody for that.
I mean, it's fine to be, like, comfortable with who you are, happy with who you are, but to say that you're proud of it is a little weird. Well, proud to be American, proud to be gay, whatever. Like, I'm not saying those things are bad. I'm just saying pride's not maybe the right word. Like,
yeah, exactly. I pretty much concur on that. And I think I did a minute microscopy on borders, that all these delineations, all these lines that we draw on maps, or other people have drawn on maps, like, and people just gravitate towards, like, oh yeah, like you said, proud to be an American. What the fuck is America? It's like lines on maps. Okay, well, I mean, America is like 2 continents, I guess.
I mean, I did a minute microscopy on pride, I think. and I kind of went into this. It's like, if you immigrated here and jumped through all the hoops to become a citizen, and you say you're proud to be American, kudos. You actually did that. You made an effort to do that. It was something you wanted and you achieved it. That is the definition of being proud, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
You accomplished something that you meant to do.
So, but then
you didn't mean to be born a certain way.
Well, but then the people who were born here who didn't go through all that effort,
right,
are like, oh, well, I have more of a say than those people who went through all that effort.
What the
makes no sense.
Yeah, they know more about your own history than you do.
Yeah.
You're the one that is trying to like hold all the chips when it comes to pride. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Fuck off.
Who cares what location on planet Earth you're born? My thought is, we're all humans. We're Earthlings. We're on this dust ball, rocky dust ball, like hurtling around space. At like thousands of miles or kilometers per hour. We should probably be looking out for each other, because we as humans might be the next dinosaurs if we don't stick together, team. That's what I love about the space program. And we had done an episode earlier about like people like a casual space travel, and I think that's a good thing. The more people who get up into space and look at that blue marble for what it is and realize how small it is, how insignificant we are, like how important it is to preserve that, and like that would make a huge difference. We would not have any wars. We wouldn't have any conflicts. There'd be so fewer arguments because people would be like, well, that doesn't even matter. Like,
I like those like series of images that show the scale of Earth compared to other planets, compared to our sun, compared to nearby suns, compared to galaxies. Like you become like our sun, our whole solar system becomes a pixel on your monitor.
Yeah.
That you can't even register with your eyes.
Yep.
And you're looking at something that's like taking up the whole screen, and that's some other solar system's sun
that we probably will never ever see.
Oh, hell no.
Like light years away. And that's the whole thing. Like, given the scale and the distance between things, the fact that we probably won't meet aliens anytime soon, I'm still holding out hopes that the sexy green girls are going to show up, but I don't think it's going to happen. So in the meantime, we got to get along.
Imagine making love to a woman with 6 breasts.
Imagine making love to a woman. Oh man, Red Dwarf, it always comes in. But that it's a game changer when you perceive things that way. Like all of these things that people argue about, all of the conflicts, all the resource fights that we have are meaningless. Like they're pointless. There's no reason to do that. There's no reason to hate anybody. My biggest thing is like, well, if you think people are different, imagine if aliens came down to this planet to invade or something like that and subjugate us, and they looked at us, would they see us as different or basically the same?
Mm-hmm.
Like we really are a lot more similar than we are different, even though like visually there's differences, but there's visual differences everywhere. So why pick one over another as the most important factor? Doesn't make sense. I don't get it. Yeah, probably had too much beer. Um,
Yeah. Well, we've gone pretty far away from drugs, but it all
oh,
like
it all comes back.
yeah,
Yes.
it all linked up pretty. I mean, in true kitchen sink microscopy fashion.
Well,
Uh,
for those people out there, I would say that LSD is good medicine. Um, um, hallucinogens do tend to produce a different perspective.
I've always been curious. I've never really tried anything.
Well,
Um,
okay. I'm gonna give my PSA. Um, I'm not gonna be all heavy-handed like the government. It's like have somebody experienced around you. Uh, that's all you need.
yeah.
A friend. Um, and don't listen to the bullshit like all the goal, you're gonna jump out of a window, on the 35th story of a high-rise building. No, that's
Or taking LSD 7 times will make you clinically insane.
yeah, that's bullshit. Total bullshit. And
What if
I
you're already clinically insane?
well, maybe all of us actually are, and we just don't know any better.
I mean, that's a whole episode right there. Like,
Yeah.
what is insanity? What is normal?
Oh man, we should put that on the list.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. But
I'll tell you what's insane. Well, not until court's over.
oh yeah. Well, so I have a friend who has OCD, and he's been researching on forums. He took some prescription medication, and it made him feel like a ghost, like he like lost his personality and just
Mhm.
didn't care about anything. But he's been researching about microdosing psilocybin, um, and a whole lot of people in forums have been saying like, "Oh yeah, I did that, and it cured me of OCD."
Wow.
Like to me, I think that's something worthy of exploration, but
Yeah.
you can't legally do it because there's no store that you can go to where it's like controlled and they grow everything and there's data, and contents listed.
Yeah, you
And
don't know what you're dosing yourself with. That's the same way with marijuana and
yeah,
everything. It's like if you're not extracting it in a lab and quantifying it and dosing it out properly,
yeah.
like I mean, like, not to be a buzzkill, no pun intended, but if you're going to use marijuana safely and for an actual medicinal use, you're not going to be smoking it.
Mhm.
I'm just going to be blunt about it. Like, you're going to have to probably inject it, or I'm sure you could probably like vape a certain like dosage or something,
Yeah,
but you're
that
not
does
going to be able
exist.
to.
There, there
Yeah, you're not
are
going to take a
actually.
flower and burn it and know exactly how much you're getting.
Well, now at least in Washington State, now it's by legislation, but it's also because companies want to have standards. There's percentages, at least, of like THC and CBD listed on the package when you buy
Yeah,
it.
but combustion changes chemistry.
It does, but at least it gives you like a little bit of a some kind of idea of what you're
Yeah,
dealing with that you wouldn't have if you bought it on the street.
yeah, but I mean, just from what little practice I've had, you'll still get a dud here and there.
Yeah.
You know, like, and that alone tells you like there's not enough actual, like, I don't know if regulation is the right word, but like just continuity to it, you know, like,
Well, it hasn't. Okay, it's early days yet, so like we haven't yet had enough time to sort out all that stuff. It's very easy. I mean, I can look at the side of my beer can and know the percentage of alcohol in here,
yeah,
and I know the volume, so I can work out how much alcohol, ethanol, is actually in here.
yeah. Well, my theory is it's not that we can't. Like I said, you know, like if you extracted however much THC you want to like get that perfect buzz and injected it or took a pill or whatever, you could do that. You absolutely could do that, I think, with
Mhm.
the knowledge we have about chemistry and stuff. But that takes away the experience that everybody is so hung up on, that they cling to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, smoking it, or, you know, vaping it, or, you know, whatever, rubbing it on their skin, or eating a brownie or whatever, you know, like all of it is, well, like 80% of it is like how you do it,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe 20% of it is like the effect you get, you know, like I think there's way more psychosomatic activity coming from the actual act of how you ingest it.
No, you are correct. And in line with things like LSD and other hallucinogens. Now, marijuana is a very mild hallucinogen, so it doesn't
Yeah,
quite fit into that category, but it kind of does. Expectation is what it's all about. Like
yeah.
what you expect to happen does kind of determine your experience. Um, so well, that goes back to education, like getting people to understand that expectation is more important than what it is you're ingesting, putting into your body. um it oh, shit, this is we're like an hour and a half in. I had no idea this was going to go so long.
I mean, at least it came back to drugs, but
Mm-hmm. But expectation is definitely a factor, which is lost on legislators. Like they can't seem to wrap their head around like anything like that.
Mhm.
It's like, oh well, this is bad, this is
Well,
bad, that's bad.
and yeah, to go back to the original topic, like the schedules or whatever, it's like colloquially, we schedule our drugs in a very different way than the government does.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we tend to think of it as like, what's our personal risk? What's the risk to our loved ones? You know, like
Yeah.
it's all about safety, and not so
Sure.
much about like how addictive it is or how medicinally like legit it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're meant to be fun, recreational,
Yeah.
or, you know, just like feel good, you know, take some pain away, whatever, you know, like,
Well, there could be all kinds of reasons. Like recreational use is a thing, but there's also spiritual use.
mhm.
Um, there's therapeutic use. There's use for creativity. Like this is the thing about all this is humans have been putting psychoactive substances into their bodies for millennia. Like this country, the US, where we live, has not even existed for 300 years. And they're trying to tell people the best way to do things. Like, okay, are you 1,000 years old or 2,000 years old or 3,000? I mean, I don't know how far back this goes, but I would venture to guess that it goes back multiple millennia.
I'm sure
Uh,
there's drugs we don't even that have gone extinct.
I
That
think you're, yes.
you know, like it's certainly something that has uh, probably predated what we consider humanity.
Yeah.
and
Oh,
other life forms. I'm sure dinosaurs were getting high. Like,
yeah, probably.
you know,
But then that's the thing. It's like, who are they to say how people should be conducting their lives? And who are they to say that we're going to send guys with guns to put you in a cage if you don't obey our edict? Like, that doesn't make any sense. It drives me up the fucking wall, man.
I just imagine some bureaucrat being like, yeah, Diplodocus was a bad dinosaur because it was all about the marijuana.
Probably so. Like, oh man, it. Oh, now I'm gonna have like weird dreams about dinosaurs smoking pot.
Diplodocus, man.
Sha.
I'm all about the plant eating, man.
Well, and this is the thing, is like a lot of the substances on that Schedule 1 list are naturally occurring plants, fungi, or
They all
similar
are
things.
in some form or another.
For the well, they're plant derived. So
Poppy seeds, coca leaves,
yep,
marijuana leaves, whatever, like,
peyote is a cactus.
yeah.
LSD comes from the ergot rye fungus, which I have a whole philosophy about that might be the genesis of advanced civilizations amongst humans.
Everything is organic
Yeah.
when you get right down to the bones of it. Like, technically organic just means there's carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen.
Yeah.
And that's basically everything that we can think of.
Like everything
It's not a rock. Like,
everything we put into our bodies is organic.
Yeah.
Even
so,
GMOs.
Like, yeah, exactly.
Stop getting all stupid about GMOs, by the way.
Everything is organic. Everything you eat is organic.
Mm-hmm.
It's all fucking organic.
That's something like that really bugs me about that term, is how, like,
you know what isn't organic, but you all put it in your body? Water.
That's
not organic.
That is very true.
No carbon there.
So clearly,
I mean, not in a natural state anyway.
Well, that's true. Clearly, we need to sell KSM organic water that has carbon in it.
Give people cancer.
Okay, yeah, I
dump a bunch of pencil lead in.
Not to happen. Oh man.
Oh boy.
We have gone down so many different directions here.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it sounds cliche, but we've barely scratched the surface on this. Yeah. There's so many things we could talk about here. I just wish legislators and politicians and other people would see this video and take to heart what we're talking about.
I would like to interview a politician while they're under the influence of a psychoactive drug.
That would be interesting.
Yeah. But if there's a politician out there willing to conduct a social experiment, let's say, and come on the show and take their choice of whatever kind of trippy drug they want, and then have an interview with us about their experience.
Okay, so John McAfee would have totally been the guy. Like, unfortunately, he's dead now, so we can't do that. And that's sad, because like I really would have loved to have had a conversation with that guy. Man. Well, he wasn't necessarily a politician, but he ran on the Libertarian ticket, I think. Yeah.
And that's why he's dead.
Epstein didn't kill himself. I got to keep bringing that up because people forget. Oh, man. And that's going to get us demonetized. It'll be the one moment where YouTube's like, oh, no. Oh, bueno. That's no good.
The neocons won't have that.
Dick Cheney and his neocons.
Ashcroft.
Oh, man. Nobody knows what we're talking about, though. 9/11 Trek.
Deja Vu Orchestra.
Yes. Oh,
one of the best things on YouTube.
That was so good. Oh, I'm queuing that up. I'm gonna watch that after we finish here because that is fucking amazing.
Why don't you try reading a book sometime?
Oh man.
Well, we've gone down quite a few rabbit holes, and we started from scheduling drugs and went into like the universe and Diplodocus getting high, and
it's actually all interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
It really is.
Yeah. So let us know if you know any politicians that want to take a little peyote or mescaline and come on the show. Or,
LSD too is
mushrooms. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Actually, mushrooms might be a better option.
Yeah.
And you know, if you're thinking about exploring such things, the best advice I can give you is don't fear the reaper. And you know, have a friend around that's been there, done that.
Well, and coming on the show would be great because you know it's always a good time here. You're not going to have a bad trip.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
We don't get all twisted and fucked up and dark and evil.
Everybody's friends here. Yeah. Like it doesn't matter who you are.
Because we're not dark and evil people.
Is that a note to?
Oh, that wasn't directed at anyone in particular. No.
Oh no, of course not.
No.
I can't wait until we can actually like.
Oh my god!
Talk about that.
Oh, like that'll be our sweeps episode. You know, like.
Yeah. Oh man!
If we actually had like ratings that we had to hit, yeah. Well, thanks for deep sink diving with us into drugs, man.
Oh yeah,
drugs, man. Fucking ludes.
Oh, now I feel like I should probably have some kind of non-ethanol based drug in my hands, but I don't. So yeah, I guess I'll say
enjoy the song.
Yeah, enjoy the song. It possibly could be a drug-fueled song, so there is that. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It depends on whose song it is.
I think I've got a couple.
Yeah. Well, I guess
there's that one called "High as Fuck You," but it's pretty bad.
Yeah. Why is it all your drug-fueled songs are like all negative? I have like Aura Blur and stuff like that.
They're not all negative.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. There's some really good songs.
Actually, I think I got a good one. Anyway, right. I got to take a piss. So
do I.
So hit that subscribe button. Hang out for the song. Thanks for deep sink diving with us into the depths of the bong, man.
Cobra Man.
All
right. Well, if you're still here, have a good night and smoke if you got 'em.
My spirit's dry. Clockwork at